Thank you. Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. If you can put your cameras on, that would be amazing. Just so Jean and I don't feel like we're just there to. Thank you, everyone. Yes, yes. If you don't have to, if you feel like, oh my gosh, and sometimes, I mean, as a female, if you're not wearing makeup, like for me, I'm like, I don't want to put myself on the screen today. But males, you have no excuses, okay? Hi, everyone. Hi, Kathy. I haven't actually met you before. Hi, Samson. I've heard a lot about you, Kathy. So it'd be lovely to actually meet you in person one day. I don't know who one Seamus is, but I don't know your first name. But yeah, hi to everyone. It's really lovely to see you all. Hi, guys. Divya. Hi, and yeah, Malaysia, she's going to share later. So I'm excited for Malaysia sharing. So hi, everyone who's joined and those who aren't on the camera. Really lovely to have everyone here. And as Jess said, please don't leave prematurely unless you have to. We'd love you to receive everything that God has. And I know that people, hi Esther, I know that people have been very expectant, like Samson, people are feeling that something powerful is going to happen today. And Jean and I have been praying and chatting and feeling, I mean, Jean mentioning that there's been some warfare happening today, especially, and he can share a little bit. But Jean, if you want to just like interject, like if you want to like say something, you can. I don't, just let me know and unmute whatever. I don't want to be the only one. But I did want to touch on vulnerability a little bit more. I know I talked about removing the masks, and part of that was vulnerability. But I felt like God was really wanting us to delve deeper into this. And but I'm going to share just for a little bit, because I don't want this to be just about me sharing. I'm going to open the floor to Jean and to Malaysia as well, and then to Jean and anyone else. Like, I really feel like today the Lord's going to open it up to you as well. If today the Lord's stirring in your heart to share something. But we talked about vulnerability. Talked about the power of being vulnerable, and I touched on something last week about how vulnerability is a strength and how I believed it was a weakness for most of my life growing up. And then I went to BSSM and I saw it modeled in such a powerful way, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that these people are walking, these high level leaders are walking in such vulnerability. Like, it's just profound. Like, growing up in India, it was just something that I never saw and experienced, and culturally it wasn't modeled. It was almost like, now we're just and even growing up in the church in Australia, it was almost the leaders are told you can't go for prayer to the front. Like, if you're a leader, you can't go to prayer at the front. And it's crazy to think that that's kind of a mask, right? To wear a mask, that you can't be real with your pain, you can't be real with your weaknesses. And that's a kind of like a very unhealthy pattern that I believe the Lord is changing, and it needs to be changed in order for us to have a deeper connection with Him and a deeper connection with others. And so being vulnerable, it's defined as a state of emotional exposure that comes with a certain degree of uncertainty. So there's always a risk in vulnerability. Being vulnerable is not about displaying our flaws or attention grabbing. It's about consciously choosing to put down our barriers that keep us from connecting with God and other people. So taking down those walls, taking down those barriers. So why do we fear vulnerability? There's so much fear. Like, that is one thing that stops us from being vulnerable. The fear. Why do we fear vulnerability? I believe there's a few reasons why. We fear being hurt. We fear being rejected. We fear being judged. That's a really big one. Being judged for our sin, being judged for our weakness, being judged for something that's happened to us in the past that wasn't even our fault. Sometimes society tells us that we are less of a person because of something that's happened to us, and we wear it. And then we feel, if I share this, people are going to judge me and see me differently and see me as less of a person. They're not going to respect me. So fear of that. Where does a fear of vulnerability come? The root, I believe that's rooted in lack of identity. I believe that if we don't know who we are, we're not going to be in that place of vulnerability, because we don't know who we are. Like, David knew who he was, and he was okay to be vulnerable with people, with God, and with other people. I believe that one of the other roots of fear of vulnerability is lack of acceptance. We don't accept ourselves. So therefore we feel that no one else will accept us. We don't even accept who we are ourselves. And then again, cultural expectations. And there's many other reasons, but these are the ones that I want to touch on today. And this is a really big one I want to hone in on again, because like I said, I believe that being vulnerable was weak. And I had to show like that I was fine, that I was strong, that I was this. And, Josh would probably even attest to the fact that I was this, like this, this person that was like, always just like, I don't know, I guess aggressive, and, strong and stuff. But that underneath that surface was a very hurt little girl that was carrying a lot of wounds and just didn't want to show it because the culture that I grew up in said it's not okay. It's not okay to be real and raw with your emotions. And I don't believe it's healthy. I believe it's very unhealthy for us to walk around with walls, for us to walk around hiding and behind the wall of that, like of pride, whatever it may be. I believe God wants us to take our walls down. Why do I believe that? Because I believe that He created us with emotions for a reason. And so we have to feel our emotions. We have to express our emotions. That's the way He's created us. That is what, if He did not want us to be, to feel emotions and to be raw with our emotions, He wouldn't have created us with emotions. I truly believe that. He would have just made us emotionless beings. But He created us for connection with Him. And that requires emotions as well. Everyone okay? I also believe that, so if that doesn't convince you, let's look at Jesus. So if you turn to Philippians 2 verse 8, I believe He was a perfect example of vulnerability. Philippians 2 verse 8, and I'm reading from the Passion Translation. Jean so kindly gave me his Passion Translation before I left Reading. And the crazy thing with this is that, like Divya knows, it's expensive. The Passion Translation in India is expensive. And I hadn't heard. And Jean said to me, I have a picture. I had this vision of you. Jean, do you remember this? I have a vision of you sitting reading the word, highlighting it in green pen. I don't know if you can see this green pen there. And I was like, that is crazy, because I've been using green pen to highlight my Bible. And this, if you haven't got the Passion, yeah, Jean, what were you going to say? You're going to say something?
No, I remember that.
Before I left, like a day before I left Reading. And I was like, that blew me. That Jean's very prophetic, if you didn't know. He's like accurate word of knowledge. Like, I was like, so there I've been highlighting Psalms in green, like the Psalms, like Passion, just, the guy who translated the Passion got the Aramaic and the Hebrew downloaded into his spirit. Like, he didn't even go to school, and he's just been able to translate the Hebrew and the Aramaic. And God came in and said to him, I want you to translate my friend actually knows this guy who, Brian Simmons. She sings, he uses her songs when he goes and ministers, my friend Carolyn. And he told her, the Lord said to me, I want you to translate the word in a way that expresses my heart for people. It expresses my heart. And I'm like, that explains, because when I've never read the Bible and cried so much, like, so it's so just beautiful, isn't it, Jean? Which is why you gave it to me. Yeah. So Philippians 2 verse 8, it says, Jesus humbled Himself and became vulnerable, choosing to be revealed as a man, and was obedient. He was a perfect example, even in His death, a criminal's death by crucifixion. Jesus was a perfect example of humility and vulnerability. He chose to be vulnerable, and he approaching His death on the cross. If we read in Matthew, this is so beautiful. Matthew 26, verse 37 to 39. Matthew 26, verse 37 to 39. It says, so Jesus, this is Jesus, okay? This is Jesus. This is God deciding to take and bring Peter and Jacob and John in with Him in His process, okay? His disciples. Jesus is a leader, and He's deciding to bring His disciples in to His emotions and His process. I was like so blown away when I read this, because I was like, this is just the heart of God. He took Peter, Jacob, and John with Him. However, an intense feeling of great sorrow plunged His soul into agony. And He said to them, my heart is overwhelmed and crushed with grief. It feels as though I'm dying. Stay here and keep watch with me. Then he walked a short distance away and overcome with grief. He threw himself face down on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if there is any way that you can deliver me from this suffering, please take it from me. Yet what I want is not important, for I only desire to fulfill your plan for me." Then an angel from heaven appeared to strengthen him. Two things we see there. We see his vulnerability before his disciples. He, as a leader, was vulnerable with his disciples. And he said, "My heart, I feel so like, I just feel God on this verse because it's such an example. My heart is overwhelmed. It's crushed with grief. I'm telling you, I'm bringing you in as my disciples to tell you that." And then he went before the Lord and he threw himself down in desperation, in vulnerability before God and said, I'm suffering, God. This is how I feel. My emotions are just so heightened. I'm so raw, but like, it is your desire. And then God came in and strengthened him in that moment of weakness. How powerful is that? Like, we could sit in that verse for ages, guys, because there's so much in that. But Jesus displays a beautiful example of vulnerability in that. And Jesus is our model. Jesus is our model. So if you ever question whether vulnerability is something that is just for the weak or whether it's for the very few, you look at that and go, no, Jesus modeled what it's like to be vulnerable. We have no excuse. This is how we should be. This is how he wants us to be. Yeah. Vulnerability lets our walls down between us and God and us and people, to create a deeper connection. How many of you have seen how being vulnerable with someone can bring a connection, like brings a deeper connection? Yeah. As soon as you let your walls down and you share something with someone, you notice that there's a connection built with them. That's how we've been designed and created, because so vulnerability with God creates a connection with him, a deeper connection. Vulnerability with people creates a deeper connection with people. It says in James 5 verse 16, we all know this verse, "Therefore confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. A prayer of the righteous person, when it's brought about, can accomplish much." And then I go to Paul, even Paul shares to the Corinth, the church of Corinth, 2 Corinthians 6, 11 to 13. "My friends at Corinth, our hearts are wide open to you, and we speak freely, holding nothing back from you. If there is a block in your relationship, it is not us, for we carry you in our hearts with great love, yet you still withhold your affections from us. So I speak to you as our children, make room in your heart for us as we have done for you." Paul is saying to the church of Corinth, like, open your hearts up, let your walls down. He knew the value of being vulnerable and letting your walls down. Now, I believe that being vulnerable, we have to be vulnerable with God first. And I shared this last week. We have to know that he is safe. We can trust God. We can trust him. He already knows it before we remember that. He already knows it before you bring it to him. It's not like, whoa, you did that. Oh my. He's like, yeah, I already knew that. Like, of course I knew that. But I've loved you regardless. And I think we sometimes forget that, God sees it all anyway. So we're really just deceiving ourselves by putting our walls up with him. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, when we think about it that way, we're like, well, what's the point? Like, he knows it anyway, and he accepts us regardless. So we're only blocking our relationship with God when we withhold ourselves from him. So a pastor the other day from BSSM, I was watching a live, and he said, God doesn't expect perfection. I heard him say, why do you keep giving, God said to people, why do you keep giving me your gold and silver? This is Richie Gordon, Jean. Why do you keep giving me your gold and silver? I came for your filthy rags. That's where I want to touch you. And I was like, whoa, that's powerful. Like, why do you keep giving me your best? Like, why do you keep giving me, like, trying to show me that you're this and that? Like, I came for the pain. I came for the hurt. I came for that. Like, you don't have to try and pretend with me. Yeah, yet we do. Yet we do, because we don't accept ourselves. And we don't accept ourselves the way we are. I want to say, finish with this, and I'm going to move to Melicia's going to share a little bit. I want to finish with this and say, being vulnerable is a choice. So I can't force you. Like, I can't force you to be vulnerable. I can't force you, but you have to make that choice. And but it's a powerful thing to do, and it requires you and I said to Jean, I feel like there's some growth in even with Beach City with this, because I feel like God wants to actually transform this in your mind, because it really requires, I don't know how to say this in a way that's, I feel like it's deeper than what you think. It's deeper. And so I want to encourage you to sit with the Lord on this. And you you can ask questions. You're always welcome to message me and ask questions, but it's choosing every day to, will I let my walls down?